There's a ton of things out here that you can see if you just take a little bit of time to look around and be patient. And I just like to move fast, and so slowing down was difficult for me at first because I like to even walk fast. So I had to really just, physically just slow down and just start looking at the world around me, and that's what has helped me get better at this type of photography and just photography in general. This is Lagoon Valley Park, a place I've been coming since about 2010, since I moved out here to California. And now it's one of my favorite places to come in and do wildlife photography. But I think to explain how I got to this point, I got to go back quite a few years. So I think this goes back to, I would say, back to my early childhood, probably when I first moved to a small town called Willits, when I was about 9 years old, in a very rural town, lots of farmland, lots of woods. And so to escape the tumultuous home life that I grew up in, I would just go out into the woods and explore, and I'd go ride my bike and run through the creeks and run through the trails with my friends or by myself. So that's really where my first love of being outdoors came from. Then in my late 20s, I discovered something else, which was trail running. And that kind of re-sparked my love of being outdoors. And I was going on trips for work, and I would find these local trail runs in the places I was at, like Arkansas and Massachusetts and all these different places. And so from that point on, I just kind of fell in love with trail running. Kept that connection to the outdoors. Well, I did that for several more years until moving out here to California. So the first thing I did when we get here to California is I got to find the trail running spots. I just started doing some online searches and find a local race called the Lagoon Valley Trail Run. So which took place right where we're at now. So I've been coming out here since 2010, so about 15 years now I've been coming out here and running. So I've run just about every inch of trail there is available out here. But then there was kind of a shift a few years ago in 2020 when I'd been retired from the Air Force for a little while, when I needed another hobby to kind of fill up my time. Photography had been something I was interested in, and I thought, I got this camera, and I really haven't done much with it, so I really need something to motivate me to use it. So I start searching online, and I find this weekly photography challenge called 52 Frames. And I'm not really one to join online groups. I don't really like online interactions with people. It's very awkward for me. But I thought, this is a chance for me to really just dive right in and see what this is like. So I started this group, and I started doing all these weekly photography challenges. Well, a lot of them just brought me out here, just walking around and observing and looking for things to take photographs of. At one point, I decided, hey, I'm just going to start doing a Lagoon Valley photography series. So I decided to come out here and walk the trails instead of running and photograph as much as I could, just landscapes, kind of nature. But I was doing it in black and white, and I did this for a few months. And some of the photos, I put a book together, a small photography magazine of these photos. And in some of these photos, you can see the sky is hazy. This is when some really bad wildfires were going on. But I came out anyway. And I just started documenting. And even at one point in time, there's photos of this small lagoon behind me when it was completely dry. You could literally walk across this whole entire bed of this lagoon. It was completely dry. So photography then became this type of a documentary, documenting the changes in the landscape, the changes in the environment. So I did the 52 frames weekly challenges for several years. So for 3 years in a row, I did it straight, doing all different types of photography. And like a lot of things, as with running, I like to try and change it up, new locations, new distances, new challenges. And I'd always see these photos on, you see photos online, on Instagram and all these other places of these amazing looking wildlife photos and bird photos. And I thought, why not do that? Let's just try that. That's a different genre of photography that I really haven't jumped into, mainly because it requires some expensive equipment, but there was no better place to do it than here. And so this year, I told myself, I'm going to start documenting the wildlife out here. Not just the landscape and the environment, but the vast array of birds out here, squirrels and otters and beavers, all sorts of stuff. The things that you don't really notice until you just take the time to slow down. And all those years out here running, I was going so fast, I would see the birds and the wildlife, but I never paid attention. I never stopped to look at, hey, what type of bird is that? I just knew geese and vultures and some other basic birds, but never stopped to really look at them and see how many different types there are. So now, when I come out here and do wildlife photography, this is a chance for me to kind of get those both worlds that I enjoy. The photography and being out in nature like I did when I was a kid, like I do when I'm trail running, but just slowing down, taking time to observe. I've always been an observant person, and so this is really easy for me. It's easy for me to be patient and just sit and observe and take in what's around me. And so just doing that has allowed me to really see the environment in a different way, see this place in a different way. Even though it's such a small place, there's a ton of things out here that you can see if you just take a little bit of time to look around and be patient. And so that's why I'm here now, and I will continue to come out here as long as this place is here, because it just provides that little bit of escape that you need from the daily life, from the daily routine, from work, to kind of clear my head, take some photographs of the nature and the wildlife out here, and feel connected to it. So that kind of ties in how I ended up here in this place, Lagoon Valley Park, how it kind of has become a big part of my life since moving here to this part of California. And even though I'm a California native, born and raised in California, this really keeps me tied to those roots that I first experienced growing up, and just getting out into nature and really using that as an escape. But now I do it with photography.